What is going on, everybody? Much anticipated interview. I'm talking to Coop from Garage Gym Reviews. I think many of you guys know who he is. He needs no introduction, but if you do not know who he is definitely, I would say, the king of garage gym or home gym review content. I think he pretty much set the stage for some of the things that I kind of get into. I really want to appreciate him coming on a channel such as mine. I joked towards the end, he is, stepping down from his throne among the peasant class here in the YouTube home gym community. So I really appreciate that. Not only that, but most specifically, his candor and how honest he was in answering some of the questions. I had a great time talking to him really after recording for a little bit. When I hit record, you guys are seeing a really open-ended conversation, and I tried to really steer it in a couple directions. One, to trying to get to know him personally, a little more information about him. It's a little bit of his personal life, what he kind of felt comfortable sharing, such as his faith, which I definitely appreciate that. And then, of course, talking about the garage gym community, his training, and a little bit of his bio. Hopefully you guys enjoy this. Any other interviews you guys want to see in the future, feel free to drop them down below in the comment section or shoot me an email and I'll try and make that happen. I love doing interviews, I love getting to know people, and I love, most importantly, sharing this with you guys. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. Almost forgot this important point though, guys. If you do enjoy this, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. It is immensely helpful to me and the channel. Let's jump into it because we didn't have a whole lot of time to talk, which makes it a little bit more candid and more fun. How about just for anybody, and I honestly, of course, I've watched many of your videos, but I don't know the full backstory. I did a little bit of history on you, a little bit. I think I probably caught you at maybe I don't know what tail end of things, but basically give us the rundown of kind of how, for people maybe you're familiar, seen you a million times, maybe don't know the whole, elevator pitch story, or it can be as long as you want, story of just you and just how you got doing this.
Doing garage gym reviews.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I grew up. Let me think of like the origin story. I grew up, my dad had a garage gym, and so that was definitely like the impetus to me getting into gym equipment training. That was definitely the beginnings. My dad was a 750-pound squatter. He always lets me know that. So I always let other people know because it just sits in the back of my head. He's like, you will never get to this number. And I never will. He had some assistance though. I haven't. We always had a garage gym growing up, third car garage, which I ended up buying that childhood home, starting a garage out of there. But I just remember like that being a part of life. Movement was a part of life. My mom was a marathon runner and a good marathon runner. Like she ran Boston. She was a beast. I remember her waking up at like 4 a.m. every morning. I'm a very disciplined person, and my dad's very disciplined too. But I think I get a lot of my discipline from my mom. My mom is just a beast. So I had both of them as like fitness icons in some way. It wasn't like I definitely like I have like an Arnold bodybuilding encyclopedia, I definitely looked up to like fitness people like that, but the main people I looked up to fitness wise was my mom and dad, and I just saw how they did it. That's like a inheritance I want to pass to my kids too. But I just remember that being a part of life. And so I would go out there and just play basically. As I got older, I got more into, I mean, I was always a hockey player, but I got more into like, I want to get better. I want to get bigger. I was always very small. And so I just remember over time training specifically for hockey more and more. And that happened in the garage gym. And then when I played college hockey, I fell even more in love with the training, so much so that it was like, I don't even want to play hockey anymore. I just want to work out. I think a lot of college athletes can recognize that once you've gotten to like I knew I wasn't going to play in the NHL. So I was like, man, this is the end of the line. I need to find something else. And was like competitive. So I was like, well, I just want to lift in the gym. So then I started, then I trained a lot at the college gym, and then I moved back home, like back to where I was raised, where I currently live, and started doing CrossFit to compete. And that was kind of the start of my own home gym, because there was two factors that pushed me to a home gym mainly. One was the cost of the commercial CrossFit gym, which was like $200 a month, which is like just insane considering I live in like small town America, and the gym had ratty equipment. CrossFit gyms there's no AC, no heating, it's just like it was a garage. It was a garage gym. And I was paying
Yeah.
$200 a month. So is that. And then I also wanted to do like 2-a-days where I wanted to do like more, low intensity stuff in the mornings. And so I just went and bought an air bike, and I was like, started doing that. And then I found some power blocks. Um, and I bought those, some used power blocks. I bought those, and then I bought like a bench. It's just like basic stuff. And so over time, I just grew it. And basically, I realized, man, uh, I want a lot of this stuff. I also am not really sure what to buy, and I'm looking online, and there was nobody doing content on it. Part of it was there was still like it was early days for gym equipment to be sold online. Like if you think about it, I remember talking to Bill Henniger at Rogue about this. It was like, I mean, it was CrossFit board stuff. That's how you were finding a lot of stuff was on the CrossFit boards. Rogue was
What year
really
was this
just,
around? What
oh,
like
this
time
was
period
like
was this?
2012 maybe.
Oh, okay.
2012 or so. So I mean, well, no, this would have been when I first started my garage. This was like 2011 or so, somewhere around there. So Rogue was established. They had like they were selling stuff, but it was still very much early days. They were just starting to like market some of their stuff. They were definitely the name in the game, but there wasn't a lot of competitors. And so I basically realized, well, I want more of this stuff. I'll I'm looking for information on this. I'll just create the information. So I just started creating video or creating reviews on my website, garageGymReviews.com. It was a blog.
Hmm.
It was like a blog. I remember I like my first video, I call like I actually react we shot a reaction to my first video yesterday. Um, and I remember I called it, go check out my blog. Nobody even says that word anymore. I
Yeah,
haven't heard that word for years.
it's a funny word to
So
begin with.
yeah, I know. Yeah. But yeah, that's just how I started. And so I just like kind of ramped it up from there. I started with the website and then I tacked on the YouTube channel. Um, YouTube channel is really what we're known for today, but our goal has always been like, I want to dominate what's called SERPs, Google search engine results pages. A lot of people see me as like I've got a personality online, but
Hmm.
man, I was an SEO first guy. I just wanted to figure out how can I beat everybody on keywords. And so that's how I really built the brand. And then I tacked on YouTube, and I really enjoyed like the editing. I enjoyed the process, the hook. I'm a copywriter by nature, and so like the idea of like capturing somebody's attention and getting them to continue to watch. I
Hmm.
love that sort of stuff. And so I just applied that to videos, and just over time have grown it that way. Yeah. And I mean, I'm still surprised I get to do this for a job. It's like, this is amazing to me. So yeah.
Back to your training. I was going to towards the end, but might as well stick with it now. Was that training early on? Was it more, if I'm taking a wild guess, was it kind of more powerlifting-esque? I know you're into CrossFit, but I think a lot of people, once you get into like garage gym stuff and you get into more of the resistance training, it becomes kind of more powerlifting, rack, barbell type stuff. Or is it kind of more CrossFit, kind of the interval eclectic type of training? Or
Yeah. In my first garage gym, it was definitely a lot of CrossFit. It was like a lot of that kind of stuff and Olympic weightlifting. I built a platform, and so I really liked Olympic weightlifting. I'd go outside and I had rings hanging from a tree, and I'd do muscle ups and pull ups and dips and all that kind of stuff. But in the beginning, not for a long period of time, a couple of years, 3, 4 years maybe. I was really into CrossFit, loved CrossFit. I still like from a competitive side, CrossFit's a really fun style of training. It's just I don't I my goals don't align with that right now.
were
But
you,
then
did you
I
ever
got
get the
into
gym bug? Or did you ever, so it seems like you never were somebody that got the, at least when I was younger, it was typical because we didn't have home gyms. Like it was go to the gym. It's still probably like that now, but the bodybuilding gym culture, was that ever something that kind of caught you? Or did you kind of avoid that being an college athlete and then going from the
yeah.
athletic weight room to garage gym?
So there was one day where I got really into the I was like, I'm making a change where I was like training a little bit, but I was mainly playing hockey and I thought that was enough. And I wasn't like, I was trained with my dad, but it wasn't like my thing, it's like my dad. And so I was in freshman year, I think. And those Under Armour shirts, how the Under Armour shirts used to, I don't know if they do anymore, but they'd have a tag on the back and it would say the size on the
Yeah.
outside,
Yeah.
like not just the inside, the outside.
I still have
So I'm
one.
sitting in class, as a freshman, right? And I'm like 120 pounds soaking wet, maybe. And this girl behind me looks at my shirt and goes, Youth XL? Coop's wearing a youth extra large shirt, And I'm just like, oh, shrink away, you know? And then that same day, I had like this pizza or so, I don't know how it happened. And this senior came up to me and like stole my pizza. And I like realized there is nothing I can do right now. Not only do I have this girl making fun of me for wearing youth XLs, but I've also got just bullies stealing my pizza. And I was like, that is never going to happen again. Not only will I never wear youth XLs again, but I'm never going to have that happen again. So that's when it was like I got really like I was like dialed. And so that's when I started going to the YMCA. That was the first gym I went to. And then to revert back to your question, I got a little bit into that. Like you ever heard of DC or dog crap training from
Yeah.
Dante Trudell? Got a little bit into that, was in some of those boards online, but not like crazy amount. I didn't really know what I was doing. So some of that, but I'd say pretty early on, it became more sport focused, and then like CrossFit.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Transition a little bit. I mean, to where you are now. I mean, you're obviously. I mean, I don't. I mean, I don't want to. Probably never going to be beaten. I think you're the mainstay, and I would say Garage Reviews, undefeated champion, world champion.
Yeah,
But
small dish.
if you and we'll get to like the community because I think that I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on that as you're being the kind of the mainstay kind of face of it. I would say, but as big as you are right now, and we don't have to get into like I don't even know how it works, but being part of a bigger company now, is it
Mhm.
hard to find that balance of maybe it sounds like with the SEO stuff you said that you were always kind of business competitive focused, but on the same side, obviously, I think the honesty of sharing, like what's consumers want to hear, like this is product good or bad type stuff. Is it hard to find the balance of maintaining just the business side of things, but also being realistic? Because I think people know, like sometimes I'll say the term like honest as I can, and it's not like I don't want to be honest, but at the same time, you don't just as someone gives you, you're not going to like say I'm going to say things in private to my wife or a friend right next to me that I would say to tons of people
Mhm.
about a company, let's say, who um, obviously has wife and kids and have mouths to feed too. You're basically respectful of the brand. So you want to be, and I think you play that line pretty good. But now in the fact of if you were just demolishing every single negative company, like well, they're less likely to maybe send you things or want to work with you.
Mhm.
And maybe I think you're an exception because you are so big. I think you guys know that too.
Mhm.
I don't know. Is any thoughts about that?
Yeah, you definitely have to do a balance. Sometimes I think the pendulum swings both ways where you can have people who they think they're going to make their name by trashing people, and so they'll
Right.
go that way where it's like they'll say something real bad. I remember with like Titan, they were really the like the low fruit where anybody could just trash them, you know, and it was like, all right, you lose Titan. No, Titan's not going to want to work with you as far as like reviews, you know. Um, but you wouldn't have them, they wouldn't trash anybody else, you know. It's like that. We're going to trash them. I'm going to make my name off that. And then you have the other side where it's like you have the people that really want to win the company. You know, it's like every review is not a review, it's like a promotion, you know. It's like I'm not interested really in either of those. If a product is unsafe, like then that's a bad product. But
Yeah.
the reality is, it's like there's value in just about every product. It's just like who's the value for. My
Right.
real goal is like to help people identify, all right, I'm the person that this product is for. Like this fits me really well. And also to like move the industry along. Like I want like selfishly partly and also because I think it's valuable for the community. It's also valuable business wise. I want products to improve. I want them to improve both in their features, their functionality, their safety, everything you can think of, but also I want them to decrease in price. So
Right.
I have a big enough voice where I feel like I can move the industry in some ways. And so I want to use that for good. And so I don't really like if something's really bad, I have no problem calling it out. And I want to make sure, and this is like a life principle, you need to be as zealous in affirming and giving positive feedback as you are negative. You know, it's like
Right. Yeah.
it's very hard like to have this balance. Like I would say the perfection of this is obviously Jesus, who is full of both grace and truth. You know, like he had both perfect, and I think that plays itself out in my job too. It's like I want to be as truthful with my like honest perspective on products, and this is not good, this is not good, but also if something's really good, I want to call it out too, and I want to say this is really good and this is why it's good, all that sort of things. So I try to like balance that. the reality is it's very hard to be like completely unbiased, like people are like, I want somebody that's unbiased. I mean, everybody has biases in some
Yeah.
way, but the I think I do a good job considering all of the, stakeholders and people that are coming at me at every review. It's like I've got emails in my inbox from companies that are mad about something I said, it's like it's constant. But it's
Yeah.
like it's just part of the game, It gets more complex the bigger you get, and that's just a game I signed up for. So,
And you touched on it. I was going to get to this later on, some questions I had, but we'll hit it now. The influential nature, obviously being on social media and what you do, and I think you said like you'd want to be you're using your obviously your platform and a force of kind of moving the market a certain direction, and hopefully in a way, obviously you're using it in a positive light to where you want the market to go. But
mhm.
basically, just talking on your level of influence. So everything in the world, I think we all admit to that. We're all just products of influence, everything we hear, see, whatever. And I see that
Yeah,
a lot in this community, which I'll get into later, some other questions, because I don't know if even though I do some stuff, I don't really feel like I'm really a part of the same level of reviewing or home gym stuff, whatever, a side point. But what I definitely see is there's always like these echo chambers and niches of thought that's always going to be there. And I think you play a role. And I think maybe you could say there's positives and negatives to it where and maybe it shifted as popularity has gone, especially as where you are right now, where Coop says this one thing, it could be uh nylon versus aluminum pulleys. Like one's good or bad. Like, well,
yeah,
Coop said this, so I'm just going to parrot everything Coop says. Or it could
yeah.
be the opposite. Well, Coop said this, I want to say the opposite of what he says. So, how much does that level of influence impact maybe what you say, or just that power? I think in the home gym community, because I just feel like a lot of people just I don't want to say it's for everybody because no one wants like they're not an independent thinker. But I always like just try things out yourself and versus just taking everything you say and just buying whatever you say or whatever, something like that.
Sure. Yeah, I want to make sure that the things I say are factual. There's definitely been times where I've like said something that wasn't true, and it was like ignorance just because like I didn't do enough research or something. Um, and I don't like that. I really don't like that. So influencing people in like that way because it's like you've said something that isn't true. That's not something I want to do. So I'm really cognizant of that. Um, in terms of like really n- like recognizing like people are taking what I say and they could view it as gospel in some ways like this is concrete how it is. I mean you have to give an opinion. Some of my favorite people are those who give like this they just got a hard opinion and they don't move from it. An example of that is like Mark Ripito.
Yeah.
Mark Ripito has tons of haters. I'm not like Mr. Mark Ripito, but I do like some of the things that Mark Ripito with his strength training stuff, he's just like 5x5s are the best. He's like simplistic. This is how it is. Everybody else is wrong. I don't necessarily play that game, but I don't know. I can sometimes respect that. It's like that's the game that some people play. But I do recognize my I do have an influence. It's going to impact the things people say. People are going to be against it or for it, and that changes all the time. It's like there are times where people love you, there are times where people hate you. I've gone through all those cycles, and there'll be a lot more of those. It's just part of it. But I just try not to let it affect what I say. I want to say something that I actually believe. Like I'm actually using this thing. This is what I actually think about it, and you know, regardless of what the audience or the brands or whoever thinks about it, like this is just what I think. And if you do that consistently, like if you have honesty, consistently, people expect that, and so they're not weirded out when you give it. you
Right.
know, like I think it's something that is a very healthy thing. Is be able to just be honest. People are going to expect it. They may not always agree with it, but they'll at least trust that what you're saying to them you actually believe.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw Mark in Texas, went to those seminars. It was half of it. I mean, I didn't agree with everything he said, but it was half of it was comedy hour, which is what I paid for. And I just I
Right.
wanted to hear him go off on just rants and stuff. And that was fun. So that was worth the money
That's funny.
by itself. So, um, do you like social media? I mean, do you like the game of social media, especially with the family and being, I'm sure now, I don't know if you're more or less busy or you have less control, more, focus on what you can do and then be more hands off. But do you like all that noise? I don't know how, someone like you can keep up with all the different channels and things. Again, I'm sure it's, micromanaged, but, or
Yeah.
keep up,
Yeah. I'm a so I'm not a consumer of social media. I am a exploiter of social media. Like that's the goal. Is like I want to use these tools to like grow something. I'm not on social media. Like I don't even have a TikTok account. I know we have one for GGR, but I'm never on there. We have a social media manager who her job is to create content and all that sort of stuff. I do create some stuff for my personal Instagram at Home Gym Coop, which I've
Hmm.
been doing more and more, which is more like an outlet for fun. But it's not like I'm not like watching, you know, it's a waste of time. I
Yeah.
mean, like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, I mean, you name it. Their goal is to get you to like doom scroll. To be on there as long as possible, waste as much of your time. Like, I'm not about that. I don't want to waste my time on that stuff. So, one thing I will spend time on though is like Facebook group, like
Mm.
or Reddit home gym community, the Discord home gym group, those sorts of places. Because I honestly I'm there like you would think like oh you're there to like extract content or something. I'm really there just because I really like the thing. I really like
Mhm.
equipment, so I'm like trying to learn about stuff and what other people are into and you know DIY stuff, all that sort of stuff. I love the space. So that's why I spend time in those spaces. But in terms of like, you know, do I love social media or something? No, I'm not a personal consumer. And honestly, I don't know many like, dude, like all the high performers I've met that are really popular on social media, they're not using social media either. They just use it to post stuff, you know? It's like spending their time like watching all this stuff is it's not healthy, I don't think.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was kind of getting to the idea of like, do you even enjoy the idea of kind of staying on top of? But I guess that's probably just you probably have a certain hours and check in of like someone else also can manage that stuff, or you can record something and someone else shoots it out.
Yeah, yeah,
Not have,
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, they'll
that's
come to
awesome.
me with ideas and stuff. And like the reality is for every like outlet, anything that is going to be anything that is going to be a platform, so like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, whatever's going to come out in the future, it all has the same principles. It's all the same advertising principles. It's all the same copywriting principles. It's all the same stuff. It's just in different forms.
Mm.
It's like shorter form, longer form, widescreen format, upright format. You know, like I mean, humans are the same. They're going to be into the same thing and be entertained and informed in the same ways on all the platforms. So I would spend more time learning the principles of what people are interested in, what gets them to watch, what gets them to click, and less on this is what's popular right now. That's
Hmm.
just I don't spend time on that.
What do you think of the just that I alluded to this earlier, just that maybe a two-part question. How would you kind of describe the demographic or home gym community? And what would you say is the kind of the current, state of it? Because before I was just making videos for fun, and then I could see the allure of once you start getting equipment, you get more like into focus on these different types of niches of things. But before, I honestly could care less. I didn't think much about it. I was like, I didn't get the allure of looking at like 80 barbells. There's no offense to you, because I could see the more you can hyper analyze into anything. But for me,
Yeah,
it's like, what's just a barbell? I mean, but what is that personality type like that can get fixated on multiple
yeah.
machines, especially if you already have it? That's always the question people have is like, well, unless you're making content and you have the money to buy and sell new stuff, what is that person that your audience that wants to just, I guess, what is the community? How would you describe that?
Yeah, it's like the gearhead. You know, there's gearheads and everything. I'm also into this won't surprise people. I'm into a lot of different like gear stuff. So like coffee, I like love coffee stuff and I like love all the gear. But there's a difference between the person who's like a hoarder and is like into the gear for the gear itself and the person that recognizes the utility in the gear. That's the difference. You know, like you got a lot of people that are into camping gear and never go camping. It's
Yeah.
like it's kind of weird. So like, or people that are into gym equipment and don't work out, you know, like that's a thing. And
Yeah.
so there are certainly aspects of the community that are really into the equipment, I think, and more so the equipment than necessarily the utility of that equipment. But I think by and large, most of them recognize like there's value in these things. They're spending time and money on them because they see the value in what it could bring to their life from training and the mental aspects of it and all that sort of stuff. So I like I want to have a balanced approach of, hey, like this is a cool piece of equipment. This is what it can do, but also not so dogmatic where I'm like, you have to have this piece of equipment or you're not going to be able to gain, you know, X amount of weight or whatever you want to do. You know, like I love the Theodore Roosevelt quote, do what you can with what you have where you are. It's like, man, just that is that's what you should focus on. And then as you can add stuff, go ahead. But I think by and large, that's the community. You know, people recognize like this. If I buy this thing, it's not going to do X for me. Um, but they are fun to have. It's fun to have good stuff.
What would you say is the current state of the home gym community as far as buying and selling? And is it
Oh,
eclipsing after COVID? I did a quick Google trend search about like home gym equipment, something. It was like 20. It seemed like from the numbers I was seeing, it's a very simple, stat here, but it seemed like it was almost back or lower than what it was like 2019 November or something like that.
yeah, peak was definitely like 2021, you know, around then. 2020, you know, it just kind of depends how you look at it because maybe some of the volume was diminished because companies didn't actually have the products to sell, but the interest in it from the audience was very high, and it's because that was the only option. You also saw this with a lot of startups. I think that's another way to track it. Like, well, you had all these VC funded, you know, smart home gym companies, and it's like, man, you're seeing just some trouble with that, trouble in paradise with Peloton and Tonal and some of these companies. So I don't think we're at a peak. I mean, fitness in itself is cyclical. It's always been that way, will always be that way. What's popular, what people are into, the types of training. I think home gyms will be a mainstay. Um, it's just like, what will the home gyms look like now? More and more are using more and more machines. I'm doing the same thing. It's like I'm more into machines. Whereas if like 10 years ago, I would have like told you like, why would you use machine? You are the machine, you know,
Yeah.
like that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
Where so I think right now we are, I mean, there's probably a trough of some sort. It seems like from our perspective, in terms of like traffic and everything like that, it's pretty flat. But then it goes in seasons within those, you know, like Black Friday will come up and you know the new year and people are always interested in fitness. So I think it's seasonal. The reality is there is no like there's nothing more efficient than training at home. Like I just can't like maybe I'm so bit by the bug I can't understand, but the I just don't understand other than like money wise or motivation wise. Even money wise, it's like I think you could just get a very simple setup and spend less than what you'd spend at a commercial gym. But time wise, I just don't think people value their time enough. And home gyms will always save you more time. And therefore, if they save you time, I think they'll always be around.
Yeah. Well, I think about that myself, honestly. It's like what I be is because I bought and sold home gym stuff since I was, I don't know, early 20s when I first could get like my first townhouse. I decked out the whole thing, even though I was working in gyms for, I had three different gym memberships I could use, but I never really, I still wanted something in my house. But then I
Yeah.
realized like this is just taking up too much space and I just wasn't using it. So I think the idea of practicality, if I have a gym, like right now, I got another gym built up in my house. So it's like there's some right by me. I ask myself, honestly, would I be as into the home gym stuff if I didn't have access to, it's just, or I wasn't making content, or it was kind of obviously I'm getting a kickback for doing that.
Yeah.
So that's what I kind of think about. But anyways, I think it was just talk about space, but side rant.
Yeah, I definitely would like I can't imagine going to gym. In fact, when I travel, which I don't travel a lot, but when I do and I have to use a different gym, I am just like, oh, I want my home gym back so bad. Like it is just like I love training there. And it's a daily habit. You know, I'm out there
Yeah.
literally every day. And so like I really miss that. But I was that same way when I had, you know, a DIY platform and I was using a Schedule 80 pipe for an axle bar. You know, it's like
Yeah.
it wasn't the equipment, but the equipment definitely increases the enjoyment of the experience. Um, but there is a hump that, and I have lots of friends that like I built them home gyms and I'll ask them like, how's it going? You know, how's the gym? And they're like, I'm so sorry, Coop. I don't use it anymore. You know, it's like I can't get motivated, you know, like I can't go out there by myself and do it. That's the hardest part, which I would say you should train that. You should, instead of saying I can't do this, it's too hard, you should look at that as an obstacle and say that's the thing you're training for, to do hard things alone. Like it's not just the shedding body fat, putting on muscle, whatever, the goal is to get over the mental hump of being alone and training alone. I think that's a really good positive thing that people should work on. So,
Well, and
but
to your point too, and what you're doing, something that took me a while to realize is that, like, if I wasn't as into home gym equipment, because I would just buy whatever the cheapest thing was possible. But then once you
yeah,
actually do get a hold of something like my squat max and a lot of stuff I have now, I actually, like you said, I've gone to gyms once in a while if I was traveling, and you do feel like, well, this thing doesn't feel like how I used to feel in this thing, or I don't have
yeah,
that squat max thing I can jump on that feels so good that I'm used to.
yeah,
So yeah, I think if you like watching your channel, finding those things that are so important, maybe does cost you some money, but later on you realize, wow, I actually it makes me want to adhere to it because I actually do enjoy it. When I see it, I want to jump on it and use it.
yeah. And it's like there's also the hobby side of it. Like right now, um, my enjoyment of my home gym is increased even more because I am trying to buy new equipment. And so I'm trying to find more machines that are unique and older and like it's not new stuff. It's like stuff that's rare that you can't find. An example is Flex Fitness ham tractor. It's like the greatest seated ham curl of all time. Dude, I've been looking for one for a while. I finally got one. It's in my garage, and it needs to be refurbished and all this sort of stuff. But it's like the researching, acquiring, setting up, and the use of it, like that whole process. It's as much of a hobby, that whole process, not just the using it, the whole process as somebody who's into cars.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
people that are into cars, they're not just into driving the car. They're into the
Right.
buying the car, fixing the car, all that sort of stuff. The same thing is for me in my home gym. Like that's how I view it. It's not just the use, and I love using it. And it's weird if you only do one or the other. It's like you gotta do both.
Yeah.
You can't just look at it. You got to use it, but also I like the other parts too.
What's some other things that you touched on a few? You said coffee. I want to say cars, but you didn't say cars. You can reference the
No,
cars.
I'm not in cars.
What's some stuff
I
you're
have
into that people otherwise
yeah,
wouldn't know about?
yeah, books. I
What kind
love
of books?
reading. What do you say?
What kind of books? Like what's genre or
Yeah,
subject or
mostly theology. Theology is what I spend most of my time reading now. Part of it is because I've been preaching, and so I want to improve in that. I think I'll probably go to seminary someday. Um, I just need some more time. So I read a lot of theology. I like a lot of biographies. I read a lot of biographies. I think when I was young, I read a ton of business books. Like I've got so many business books that I used to read. And then I realized, man, the things that really stick with me are not like the principles. They're the principles of the thing and like the things that you can apply to like every area of life. But I most see principles and most want to have principles and be principled through seeing principles in other people's lives. And so reading biographies, like my favorites are Walter Isaacson's, anything by Walter Isaacson. So Benjamin Franklin, Einstein, Leonardo da Vinci, Steve Jobs. He's got a new one on Elon Musk. He's got another one on forget who it is. He's just got a lot. Any of his, I love reading them because I learn a lot through those. So I read a lot of those. I don't read a lot of fiction. I probably should read more fiction. I think it'd be healthy for me, but I just don't. I struggle to read fiction. It's mostly nonfiction. So every once in a while, I'll find a series and I'll just run through it, like Dune. Like when I started reading Dune, I fell in love with it. So I read it
yeah.
so quick. Narnia, I've been reading with my kids. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm reading. And then other hobbies. I've taken up guitar in the past year.
Hmm.
Uh, we do family worship at our house every night, and
Hmm.
so I wanted to be able to play like for my family. I just thought it'd be fun. And my son started doing guitar lessons, and I remember one of the ways that my dad and I became so close was because we both started learning hockey at the same time. And so I was like, well, this is something that, it's something where dad isn't necessarily teaching my son. It's more like we're learning it together. We're in this together, and so that's something I've been spending more time on. Um, yeah, so those are a few.
Let's get into if you don't mind, I don't think you will, based on what you just said. Let's get
Yeah,
into some faith stuff because I always think if I tell people this is one of the things I don't say. I have religious icons behind me all the time in my gym, but if I
yeah.
could, I would talk
Are
more
you
about religion.
Eastern Orthodox?
No, I'm not. I'm hard Catholic. It's just the Eastern Orthodox have better
Okay,
icons. I do got Catholic
sure,
icons, but Eastern ones are really
sure.
cool. I got I'll show this. This is one of my favorite thing, Catholic thing. We like our crucifixes very,
Right.
detailed, but
Wow.
so but
Dang.
yeah, I mean, if I could talk religion all day, I'm saying with you, like theology is all pretty much read or yeah, obviously the Bible every day. But so when it's once you finish one time, it's like what's this? I'll go back to another translation. You just got to keep just studying everything. How much has just Christianity just meant to your life, or maybe get into that story? We can start going just from there, but I don't think too much
Yeah,
more.
yeah, totally. I mean, it's everything. I would say I've always believed, I don't have a specific, there's part of me that's like, I wish I had a specific, like, Paul on the road to Damascus story or something, but I just don't necessarily have that. I've always believed ever since I was a kid. My parents were Christians. I grew up in church. I was always vocal about my faith. I remember like playing hockey, going out of town on hockey trips and inviting my buddies to go to church with me on Sunday. It's just like, that was just, that's who I was. That my faith, there was definitely a time where it was like, all right, my faith was kind of built on my parents and I trusted my parents and everything. And then it had to kind of shift over to like, okay, it's not just my parents anymore. These are things that I'm like Cooper believes. This is who I am. So it influences everything though. Everything I do it matters. We're called to test everything and see if it is true. Like the Bible is the standard by which I view the world. Everything I view is through that lens. That's my worldview. I want to honor, please, and glorify Christ in everything I do. So all of my job, I work hard so that I can honor him. I love my neighbors. I love everybody around me because I want to honor him and because of what Christ has done for me. Everything I do extends because of the grace I received that was completely undeserved. And so my entire life I now give to him. And so there isn't a single, there's a guy named Abraham Kuyper who said there isn't a single square inch of the earth that Jesus doesn't look at and say, that is mine, and so my life is included in that. And so everything I look at, I say, that's Christ's. And I want to honor him through the way that, I've been given these gifts, whether it's my children or my wife or my toys, my job, whatever, it's like, I want to give him honor through that.
Wow, super. I mean, you never had that. You never. So it's not like you were always pretty much walking in the spirit. Pretty much, you never really had that fall from grace like I did. I was a knucklehead for many years
Okay.
until I got
I mean,
smacked hard in the head.
I've definitely sinned, but
Yeah,
I mean, not to go too deep, but
yeah,
I saved myself for marriage. Like
yeah.
I've never really done drugs, and I'm not like there's grace for all of those things. But I just I don't know. I never thought Jesus wasn't the Son of God. My faith was never in anything else. I certainly have had times where I've sinned. Um, you know, I mean, I sin constantly, but like I've had times in my life where I struggled with sins. But I remember in high school, like porn. It's like this is like I struggle with that. I fought it. It's like this is so hard, and the Lord freed me from it. Whereas like it's not a it's it I don't it's not a bondage for me anymore, and I praise God for that. But through that whole time, I was praying, Lord, take this from me. Like remove these desires. Like I don't want these anymore. So I was trusting in Him. So yeah, I don't have and I hope like I think about it, it's like I love hearing the stories of people that came from just a really dark past. And I have so many friends that came from that. But I hope my kids have the same story. I hope my kids, never question it. I think every parent is like that, that is a believer. They're like, I really hope my kids, they always trust in that way. So,
For sure. That's amazing. I might have been. Have you ever gotten this deep before? Have I missed something, or also has this ever gotten you not in trouble, but have you kind of how just I'm sure it hasn't. Just hearing how vocal you have been, but I don't know, just business wise. I mean, I'm sure you're part of another corporation. Does that ever play a
oh,
role, butting heads a little bit with things, or
I mean, not
not really?
necessarily. I mean, I'm pretty vocal with what I believe, and I mean, other people are vocal with what they believe. I have no problem disagreeing with people, and I think it's actually healthy for us to say, like, I think it's loving for us to instead of like hide our beliefs, like say it out loud and work through disagreements. My goal on the channel is not to talk about my faith necessarily. Like I would say this, the Christian businessman is not the person who takes shoes and stitches crosses in them. The
Mm.
Christian businessman is the person who lives out the Christian ethos. It's the person who lives that ethic, who works with integrity, who cares for their clients, who cares for the audience. And so I try to show my Christianity, not in me saying on the channel every time I review a product like uh John 3:16 or something every time I review it. No, it's acting with integrity, it's being honest. And where I've fallen from that, I think that then diminishes what I say I believe in. So I have to constantly go back and be like, all right, am I living this ethic out, not just in the things I say but in what I do, which I think speak even louder than our words.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. The only thing I'd add to it, or maybe it's a pushback, I don't know, is
Yeah.
I've heard that obviously many times people saying that. And one thing I think back in my life is you see if you could have someone who's a really good stand-up person, very good virtuous person, and I can look
Yeah.
at, I could say my dad was one of those people, is like I've never met anyone like that. I mean he's still alive, God rest him, but he was a workaholic too for that matter. So awesome, unbelievable person, but
Mhm.
that little inkling of, but basically you can get a lot off of that person that rubbed off. But even as people I meet, I'm like, but there is that little point of like that final sell. Like if you're a salesman, like you can talk awesome about this car, but at some point you gotta throw in the sale. At least have that sell sheet out there and invite that person in. That's the only thing I feel like sometimes is missing. And I'm not saying you don't do that, but different places and times for that. But that's
You're
something
talking
I think,
specifically about like Christianity.
yeah, yeah, you could have someone who's really
Oh,
awesome,
without a doubt.
and
Yeah,
then it's
there's
like,
like
man,
that
I wish that
Francis of
person said
Assisi
something.
quote. Francis of Assisi, he has a quote where he says, it's like, oh, I forget what he says. I don't want to butcher his quote, but it basically relates to like, uh, it's like use words
Yeah,
sparingly
I know
or
what you're talking
something.
about. Yeah,
Okay, it's a very popular quote.
yeah,
Well, we do need to use words in some way. We do need to announce in some way. It's not like I'm just living my life. It's like
yeah,
I'm living my life and I'm saying things, but both of those flow out of the heart. So it's
yeah.
like both of them should reflect that way. And I get what you're saying. I totally agree with it.
Is there anything else that you feel that maybe people misunderstand you for or don't know about you that they might not otherwise see from just seeing you on just the typical weekly videos they see from you? I mean, that alone
I
you
I
just said is
remember
pretty
I don't
big.
get it as much anymore, but I remember there was a time where it's like, does Coop even lift? And I think there's just such a I think social media has just ruined so many's views of attainable physiques, like, and like what the goal is with training and why people are training. And, it's like the amount of times I've seen people say comments like, man, if I had Coop set up, I would look like Ronnie Coleman or something. It's like, I just, number one, that's not true. Number two, you may be bigger than me, but it's not like I'm not training. I don't know. Like, there's not like there's not a way for me to show I'm training all the time other than just say it and hope people believe it. But like, I really love this stuff and I love training. So I'm out there every day, have been. Like, you talk to anybody who I've worked with, um, like on a training basis or whatever, and they'll tell you like I'm very consistent. And I love training. So I wish had a bigger physique. I wish I was stronger, all those sorts of stuff, but um, it's not for lack of effort. So I
Yeah.
think that's one. I think that's one. The personality side, people like uh, the like a YouTube personality and stuff. Um, like that is my real, like, this is my real personality. Um, but I think sometimes they just think like uh that's all I did to like build GGR, but really like the way I was able to grow, I think in some way this market, but also GGR was just through the website. People just don't give enough credence to the website. They give a lot of credence to YouTube, which I don't do anything on the website anymore. I provide them like basically these are my thoughts on equipment, and then they decide how do they want to publish it. So we have a full team that writes all our articles, and I think does a really good job. But um, there was a time where I wrote all that stuff and I was doing all the SEO and all that stuff. And I really enjoyed that part. But that's more like behind the scenes underground stuff versus like what people see publicly on YouTube and Instagram or whatever.
Is your life less stressful or more stressful now, just with everything going on recently?
Mm,
I mean, it seems I would assume less stressful because it seems like you can just focus on, I don't know, just specific things and rest of,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, it's just different kinds of stress.
yeah,
It's well, I mean, if I isolate it to like just GGR, it's definitely less stressful in that I'm not like holding the entire ship up myself. It's like I got other people that are doing stuff and are really good at what they do. It's like honestly, like our SEO people are better than I was ever at SEO. And we have multiple people that they focus on that kind of stuff. Video editors, like they edit videos. I edited videos, but it was like, I was just doing whatever I could to figure it out. So I there's less stress in that, but like I now have more kids. I have more responsibility, in multiple areas of my life. I'm constantly starting new stuff. I don't just sit around. You
right,
know,
yeah,
it's not like I just decided, all right, I'm retired at this point. It's like, no, I just have different stress.
yeah,
But I've never like, I'm not like a stressed person. I'm not like, I have friends that are like, where I'm stressed. I just don't really worry that much about a lot of stuff. I think stress, the way I've been stressed in the past is I've just had too much stuff going on. And it was like, I literally could not finish all the stuff. And I hate not being a man of my word. So it's like that caused me stress. But in terms of like worrying and stuff, I mean, that's not, I just don't really worry that much.
yeah. Well, I get one more question for you in a second because I don't want to wake up. You've been on here almost an hour, so I'll let you go soon. Unless there's something else you want to hit on. Anything
No,
else? No?
no.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. This will probably be the first video. I might make a one video on this before I put the full one out. But I gotta ask about the Total Gym. All right, so you knew you knew that was coming. So
You are Mr. Total Gym.
yeah, I guess I don't know.
You've probably does Total Gym love you? Are they like
I don't know.
do
I
they
can't.
like
I've talked to him a few times. Believe it or I would love to talk to him more. But yeah, not, I don't know. That I can't. That as much as some people think, I'm sure certain things like yeah, I'm in the back pocket of Total Gym. That is definitely not the case. I just was
oh
a fan of the thing. So.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, what are your thoughts on that? I just made a video today, so again, with my demographic, this won't appeal to everybody, but that's the question people always ask, and I have my theories about it. I do have one legit question, which I posed in the videos before that I could ask, but
Yeah.
any thoughts about just that machine in general, those types of machines?
Oh yeah, Total Gym is I mean, I have very little use with Total Gym. So it's not like if somebody is interested in Total Gym and the training, they should definitely go to you because you have a lot more experience than I do with Total Gym. Um, but the amount that you can do with them in my little experience is a lot. The ways you can vary the load and the movements you can do and how little space they take up, how easy they are to move around. I think they're very versatile. I have a we have a review plan on coming up. My honestly, dude, I don't know if I ever used one really before FIBO. The problem with Total Gym, and this is a problem for other companies too, their marketing is just not there. It's like so nobody like people aren't like they just aren't interested in it like they probably should be because the audience that Total Gym used to try to attract was like the QVC audience. And it's like a lot of home gym owners don't necessarily like they're not that audience. So they see that piece of equipment, they're like, my aunt had one in the basement with a bunch of dust and clothes strapped on it. So I mean, I want to get more use with it before I really give my opinion, but I think I agree with you. They're a very versatile piece of equipment, especially for the cost. The cost is cheap. I just feel like I've used some of their higher end units, and their higher end units are nice, but I sometimes wonder like how are they charging so much for some of the lower like they seem overpriced.
Oh
Are
yeah.
they
Well,
not?
well, yeah, and I think so. But I think
Yeah.
you hit the nail on the head, the marketing. I think they intentionally must not care too much about
Yeah.
my like a male audience in this demo, my age group. I think they are because I'm sure that it's volume for them. That's what I have to assume, and that's why I know they're doing QVC does tons of sales. And at the end of the day, I'm sure it's that costs a lot of money. So I thought it's factored into the total cost. That's my end all assumption in that. And plus, you might know this too. They're two separate entities. I mean, the guy But I would love to
Right.
get to talk to you. Tom Campanera, who originally created that the Total Gym, he owns like
Okay.
Total Gym, and then he licenses Total Gym direct. So there's kind of like two separate
Okay.
things. So like yeah, whatever. I'll just leave it at that. But I always thought that just the way it looks, and it just looks funky, and like you said, the advertising is so bad that my thought was like, for a channel like yours, that would just not be a good thing to cover, because it's just like it would put a sour taste maybe in the traditional barbell squat rack crowd. But then the question I had for you, like legit question, was like when you guys said, and it says on a call out, it was just a legit
Oh,
question,
sure.
but it was, do you guys only review things that, like, I was with the big money, the money you guys have, the big corporation have, dude, why not just buy the Total Gym? You can still like get the
Mm,
affiliate, whatever, and just do it. And my brain
yeah.
was like, for the video alone, just to attract some attention, and just, do you guys not only do reviews for stuff that is sent to you for free? Because that's my thought. I was like, why not just buy the freaking thing, or have the
No,
company
we
buy
buy
it? And,
stuff. I mean, I buy stuff all the time. I mean, I buy like I just spent $16,000 on prime gym equipment. Uh,
okay,
uh I just found used. Like I buy
yeah,
stuff all the time. We review stuff all the time, both on the side where we don't have an affiliate. The reality is like on the YouTube channel, I just review what I'm interested in. And
that's
if
not in,
we
yeah,
basically the way it'll work is I have like people on my team that are finance people, and I'll be like, hey, I'm going to review this thing. You should see if they'll send it to us. If they won't send it to us, like I'm still interested in it. I'm still going to review it. You should see if they have an affiliate program or something like that. Well, Total Gym, honestly, I haven't been that interested in it. It's
right,
just like I haven't up until I tried one at FIBO and I was like, oh, this is like, and a lot of it is because of all the things that you've said. It's like, it just doesn't look that interesting. My experience with that in the past was essentially like, my aunt having one. Um, I think they're priced pretty high. They've got the lower, like, I think they have
yeah,
like their Apex version that's maybe like $500 or less. So it just wasn't an interesting enough product to me to be like, we got to go and get one of those. Now, I will
yeah,
say, I think we reached out to Total Gym, and I don't know if they said that they wouldn't give it. Like, they're just a weird. It seemed like they were just kind of an archaic company. They don't necessarily understand how the internet works, which that's their decision. That's not going to prevent me from reviewing it though. So we do have a review that we're going to do on it. I need more time with them, but yeah, no, good question. We don't just review things that we get for free or whatever. But I
awesome.
will say, if a company sends me some for free, I really like getting free stuff.
Kind of related question, and we can do this the last question.
Yeah.
Even with that product, I mean, that's something I always think like that could have been something that could be so cool. And I always, but I'll leave it at that. That there's things you could do, like if you had that contraption and you put some heavy duty metal on it, and you strap a bunch of stuff, just like whatever, all sorts of crazy stuff. That thing could be a beast that would take up such little space that could do so much. Um, what's your thoughts, just well, you can comment on that if you want to, but then also just the innovations of products coming out there. I mean, does it seem like, I mean, are you excited what the future has, or is it kind of like, um, you know, is a saturation point kind of getting to a certain point?
Yeah, I think we're coming to a point where there's a lot of companies in the market that are kind of selling the same stuff. And if you look at any like categories where that happens, usually what happens is companies will get bought out by others. They'll swallow up other companies or companies will fold. I think like the amount of companies selling stuff, especially like the same stuff, it's like, man, how many 3x3 1-inch hole racks with nothing special on them? Like our company's going to come out with. It's just not going to work. The market cannot sustain that. So the companies that will do well long term are the ones that are actually like got some IP behind their stuff, making unique, useful things. It's like this is the reason Rep Fitness right now in the home gym market is just killing it. It's because they actually hired engineers that do the thing. It would blow your mind the amount of companies I've been to that hire people that have no interest in fitness, no interest in the home gym market. And it's like, that's why you're not producing good stuff. It's like you got to be into the thing. And so I think over time, I think we're in a good like I think there's a lot of more innovation that can happen. There's so many different ways that products can be improved. I mean I love the way like the market is going, because you're also getting not just better stuff, but you're getting better stuff, more well thought through stuff, Also stuff that is getting priced cheaper because volume is higher on some of these items, but they're actually thinking through details. Like it's not just metal welded to metal. It's like Rogue, for instance, on some of their stuff, like the way they're inserting their logos, their products don't feel like any machine shop could make it. It feels like, whoa, that's like a special, like there's some special tooling and stuff they're using. Very cool. Or like knurling details on things that are not functional at all. It's just like it's to make it a cooler product that people like. I like that sort of stuff, and the community does too. So like I think it's pretty cool over time what's happening. And I'm here for it. I want to see more of it. My dream though, like one day what I really want to do is I want to do like collaborative products. I would love to like collaborate with companies on products that are already existing, but just like make them better. It's like do like a few runs of some bench, and it's like let's just stop worrying about like let's stop worrying about making a product that is for everybody. With this, it's like make this for a specific person. Price isn't as much of an issue because you're not going to make as many, and it's just like how can you make this as good as possible? I would love to do that kind of thing, so maybe someday.
Awesome. Well, I
Yeah.
don't want to take up too much of your time, brother. I mean, everyone knows where to find you, but maybe just mention, plug all your stuff, and then any other final thoughts, feel free to throw them out there too.
Yeah, definitely garageGymReviews.com is our website. We have thousands of reviews. Our YouTube channel at Garage Gym Reviews. You can also go to any of our socials at Garage Gym Reviews. My personal is at Home Gym Coop. And I just like to shout out our team that's working hard. We got a lot of people on our team that are working very hard behind the scenes. They don't get the kind of credit that sometimes I do. They also don't get the disses and negative feedback that I get, but that's okay. I'm thankful for them and how hard they work. And also, thanks for inviting me on your podcast, Mike. I appreciate the time, man.
No, it means a lot that again, the top of the garage gym review world, God, you could come down to the peasants down here. So
Yeah,
we
I'll go
appreciate
back to my throne, uh, buy all my kids diapers and stuff here
uh,
in a minute.
I appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.